I'm Will Rose, Dave's son. I tend to get choked up pretty easily, and that may happen, but I want you to know I primarily am feeling a lot of joy today, being here with so many people, so many friends and family. One of my earliest memories of my father is being at Lake Michigan, sitting on the beach by firelight, children sitting around while Dad read out loud Huckleberry Finn. I was probably 3 years old the first time I heard that, but I picked up more of it as it went on. Our house was full of books. Dad loved literature, as Debbie said, and there was not a room in the house that didn't have a bookshelf in it somewhere, and with no television until we were maybe 14, or I was 14 years old or so, there wasn't much to do but read and sing and play games and be happy together that way. But I think I mentioned Huckleberry Finn because it's a story about a boy who runs away from his abusive father. And I remember being in France as a child, and Dad, I think, did some writing in your room over there. And I remember him reading a story about a boy who ran away from home and was riding on freight trains. I don't know that others in my family really remember that. Maybe I dreamed it, but I remember that image of the boy running away. And I think there was something in my dad's spirit that wanted to be able to run away all his life and wasn't ever really able to. As a minister's son, as a minister, as a father, he was bound all his life by restrictions. And I think somehow at an early age I felt that and knew that it was part of my duty as a son to live out some of my dad's dreams. So the first time I ran away from home was when our dog Thibaut was killed by a car when I was maybe 10 or 11, and I jumped on my bicycle and decided I was going to ride my bike to Lake Michigan, where we had been happy together. We were living in Boston. But I just rode that bike over Windsor Hill and down the other side of the hill to Goshen, Massachusetts, and got as far as the highway entrance heading east or west towards Albany, and decided, you know, really this is maybe a little bit beyond what I can do before dark. So I called home, and Dad drove over the hill, picked me up, took me to Friendly's, consoled me, and we went home. The next time I ran away, it was a little different. I was 14, I was miserably unhappy, I was being bullied in school, I was dealing with my gay identity that was emerging at the time that was very difficult for me to deal with. And my relationship with my father was often stormy. And it was hard for him, I think, in many ways to deal with a teenage boy, with an adolescent boy going through troubles. I ran away from home, again in Boston, and hitchhiked, decided this time I was going to head for California. And got as far as Erie, Pennsylvania when I got in the car I was riding and got pulled over, and I spent a night in jail waiting for my father to come pick me up. I thought being in jail was actually pretty cool, and probably a lot better than what was going to happen when Dad came. But as it turned out, my father was all forgiving, proud of me as heck for having gotten so far. through a blinding blizzard, I might add, on the New York State Thruway, hitchhiking all night. The third time I ran away from home, I was serious about it. And I managed to stay away for about 2 weeks, but I was kind enough after the third day to give a collect call home and let my parents know that I was alive, so they didn't need to worry about me. And when they got the phone bill a couple of weeks later, they figured out that I had made a call from Hyannis on Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and my father came down there with a picture of me and went up and down the main street, going into every store, asking if anyone had seen me. Where he found me was, guess, the library. Where I was sitting with a stack of science fiction books this high, and I suddenly looked out the window and saw my father walking up the drive up the walk to the library. Anyway, he found me, and I was terrified that I was now really going to get it, but Dad was all forgiving. Took me out to lunch, gave me $10, asked if I was ready to come home, and I said, no, I'm fine, and he said, well, you know you can come home whenever you're ready. Be careful, take good care of yourself. And I mention those stories because those were some of the hardest times of my life. And during some of the most difficult relationships with my father, who was not an easy father in many ways for all of us in various times. But the thing about Dad was that when a crisis came, he was there. He was always there. And I think that what it comes down to is that my father recognized that the thing that would get me through a crisis over and over again was to remember the love, to come back to the love at the heart of it all. And that's a lesson I think that I just incorporated through being his son, through experiencing it directly over and over and over again. And that in my own ways I bring into my teaching, into my life with my partner, Warren, who's here with me today, and into our family, where we also struggle at times. And so I guess I just want to leave you with that Dave really lived love. And even though he was not a perfect man, when push came to shove, he knew what was important and how to connect with that and connect with that in other people. Thank you.